we're going to get going on fabricating some suspension pieces actually today. So I need to take this suspension piece here, the horn, we're going to take it from here and we're going to have it run all the way up to the front of the car. Alright, so this was just to mock it up, so I tacked on actually a little bit of scrap that I had. And now we're going to take those pieces and we're going to put it all the way to the front. All of the joints will be TIG welded. And you can see we've got good weld preparation and a good fit up on all of those joints, which is critical. These are taking the loads of the vehicle. So let's not play around with that kind of stuff. So we have to have, you know, a nice exposed root, not any MIG weld where it's kind of gobbed together on the surface and then it's actually, you know, it's got a crack at the back side of it. So when we weld this, we'll be keyholing it the whole time to make sure that we're welded all the way through. That's critical. So that's going to be our little project for today, is basically getting those parts pulled off and welded. So let's get going. Okay, we're back. Actually, I'm just going to raise you guys up a little bit. Oh, I was going the wrong way. Alright. Yeah, my welding table goes up. How awesome is that? I just wanted to... I changed, right? So one of the things that drives me crazy, particularly about YouTube shows where guys and gals are fabricating things and building stuff, is the lack of personal protective equipment. You only get one set of these, one set of those. I've had to have my wife take me to the hospital to have metal removed from my eye. Let's not repeat that, please. So you're responsible for your own health and well-being on the job or in the garage. So you won't see me grinding with bare arms. Alright, so I just bought this jacket yesterday. I'm so happy with it. My old one was same way. It's cloth on the front. Right, it's leather on the sleeves for protection. You won't see me welding TIG, MIG, or otherwise barehanded, without a helmet, turning my head away for tacks. Any of this stuff is nonsense. I just want to get that out of the way first. I have opinions and I feel free to share them. If you do that kind of stuff professionally, in a work environment, someone is going to correct you on that. It's probably going to be an old guy with lots of burn marks. I had an old guy with lots of burn marks who told me not to be an idiot and to make sure I wore the proper equipment. You take care of yourself. So when you're working here in the garage, I'm often out here on weekends. Clearly I'm alone, right? It's just you and me here with the camera. And yeah, my wife comes out occasionally to check and make sure I'm still twitching. But but a lot of times if people are away, then you have to have a little safety routine for yourself. Your first line of defense is proper equipment. So I have had to have welding slag removed from my eardrums. Yes, it happens. Sparks get in your ears. So I'm going to put in my ear protection just to make sure any random sparks don't get in my ears. I'm always going to wear my gloves. I never touch a grinder without my gloves on. I just think it's bad practice and you'll end up with sliced up hands and fingers as a result. And I don't use anything without the guards. Right, I see that all the time. Guys with the wheel of death, cut-off wheels on their grinders, on YouTube, showing people how to do things. And one slip, and that grinding wheel is going to be straight into you. Wear your safety equipment. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to be cutting the tacks on this piece. So you can see we've just got some nice little TIG tacks. There's one on the top and one on the bottom. You can see I wasn't serious because I didn't tack it on all four corners. So that's going to come off and I'm going to TIG that on. We're not going to do this long style. I'm going to see what it's like if I do this in a time lapse because I figure it's going to be as boring as the day is long if we have to watch it 24 frames or 30 frames a second with each other. So we're going to do it like that. In the TIG torch currently is a 3/32. Let's get some welding done, people. Okay, so here we have the saw set up. It's a 14-inch dry cut metal cutting saw, so measure out both the rails. Note I've got some 2x2 scrap material on both ends of the tube there, so that when the cut actually comes through, it doesn't go dropping onto the table or flying somewhere we don't want it to go. Yeah, so here we go. It's too bad the audio doesn't actually work when I speed up time, but anyway, it cuts really well, leaves a reasonably burr-free finish, and I just have to go ahead once I'm done cutting both of those, and we go immediately from there over to the grinder and make sure everything's trued up. So I'm just checking it here with a square, making sure it's true in both dimensions. I'm checking it against the light in the door, and actually if I can see light behind the square, then it... Anyways, we tune all that, and then we'll have the long rails that we need to finish this part of the job. There, we're going to go over to the big belt sander and turn that on. You can see the volume. It comes off the in the weld area. Okay, now in super fast motion, I'm just quickly cutting the tacks on the old little stub that I had in there and getting ready to weld up the new rail. So I'm using the old piece there just to square it up, and then applying the little TIG tacks, and then I'm going to TIG each one of the roots here, just making sure I've got a nice keyhole pass there. Just do one side, do the other side. Always checking it to make sure it hasn't pulled, make sure it's straight. And just doing the flats. Most of this is done sort of just full pedal. Not pulsing it or anything silly there, just welding it up. Doesn't take a whole lot to get it done, but there you go. Okay, here we are done. That's just the root pass, so that's a quick pass I put on. This is 1/8" material. I'm using 16th of an inch rod. I mean, as you can get a good look at it there, so you can still see there's lots of groove left to be filled. So simply a pass that's put in to make sure the root of that tube is actually completely tied together and will remain strong throughout. So there she is. Don't look too bad. Anyways, one more to do. We'll come back and we'll put a fill pass on that with 3/32 just so we're not here all day. We also don't want to pour too much heat to it. We're trying to keep the tube flat. Would be nice if this wouldn't bend. Okay, here we are. It's all done. So that's with the 332 rod on a second pass. I don't know how it's going to focus on any of this, but Again, we want to make sure that the weld is, everything is looking pretty good. We'll still buff those out a little bit, just to make sure everything's going to fit nice. Anyways, all in and done. No drama. Next up, be pulling the cross member out of the car and seeing how everything fits. There's going to be some drama there. We're back. It's day 2 on the front end install. These things never go as fast as they want. At any rate, so today what I've been doing is just getting things prepped to start taking everything off from underneath the car, putting it up onto the welding table onto a temporary frame jig that I'm going to construct up here in order to make sure that the rails are straight and everything can be squared and everything's true. So it's again, you go searching around on the internet looking for ways to do this. Mostly you're going to find people that have, again, very fancy equipment, a lot fancier than what I'm going to actually do this with, big expensive jig tables and other things like that. We don't have that kind of stuff here. So how we're going to do it is we're just going to use some 2x2 eighth wall square tubing. I've got 6 feet of it, and I'm going to lay out exactly what I need in terms of the rail and the rail positioning on it. So the reason we've selected 2-inch tube, not that you can see the 2-inch tube very well, but there's the 2-inch tube. The reason we've selected this 2-inch tube is, of course, the rails for the car are 2 inches wide. So when we go and attach things to the rail, to the table, I should say, then we can make sure that the rail is in the correct position. So this is critical. Got to get the front end in square. Any deviation at all, you just end up chasing your tail, in my experience doing this, and that's only because I've done this more than one time on this particular build. So I hope this is the last time, and I do hope this works. At any rate, we're going to go into the stop motion mode because no one really wants to watch the great long boring shots of how I do this in real time. So let's go fast forward. Okay, so I've got the long rails laid out here, and I've cracked open the MIG, and I'm starting to tack it up, just starting at one corner and then working my way around each one of the quarters, getting the magnets in the square, checking for square here either way, checking, and then finally tacking it all in place. Yeah, there we go. I can't recall how much it was out. It really was nothing, absolutely negligible. I tapped it a little bit with a hammer there right at the end just to make sure it was perfect. It's about as good as it gets here. I'm just adding little wings onto the side that will support the outriggers of that frame rail. So measured those in, get them nice and square and tacked in, and we're all done. Okay, now that we've got the frame built, we're going to go through the process of leveling the frame off. If your table is truly level, then that's great, but mine's not. My garage floor is terrible, so it's really it's very, very old, and it needs to be replaced. At any rate, the 2x2 frame here, everything is straight and as square as I can make it. I believe over the entire 6 feet, I was off by about a 64th of an inch. That's what I was complaining about with the hammer. So I tapped that out as much as I could. It's now as square as the day is long. Anyway, so we're going to break out the levels. I'm going to actually do this in real time. I'm not going to do it in stop motion for you. This doesn't take forever. First thing is we need to make sure both planes are level, and then I'm going to start adding pieces to the jig. So we'll start adding it up, at which time I'll probably switch over and go for the stop motion. Okay, so I'm going to refocus just ever so slightly so we can see what we're doing. I'll edit this part out. Change the angle a bit. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, time to get down to work. For this, we're going to use some very high quality levels. The Stabila, made in Germany. These happen to be electronic. I can even turn the noise on. There we go. Just a little shout out to. Okay, that's too annoying. We're going to turn the noise off. Okay, so right off the hop, we're only a quarter of a degree out, 0.2 of a degree out this way, and we are which isn't really too bad for this table. 0.15 of a degree out longitudinally, and for argument's sake, we're the same on both sides. So that tells me that this side here, given which way the arrows happen to be pointing on my level, this tells me that this side needs to come up just a little bit. So we're going to try adding little bits of shim here and there and see how this all plays out. Okay, so we're going to try, I've got some 1/8 inch, just random off cuts here. Better safe than dead. Oh, I think I hit the wrong button on this thing. Alright. That's not bad. That's dead. That's 0.00 with 1/8 of an inch. So that's this way. And if we check the rail this way, we still have that, and it tells me that we need to come up ever so slightly, actually, at the front. Okay, so front's got to go up just a bit. And in order to maintain the level, because we do like this level, this is perfectly level this way. So in order to keep this level this way, we're going to add the 1/8 of an inch to the back, right? And then raise it up to get it level this way. That, trust me, this works. So for this, I'm just going to use a couple of washers. Right, we're going to sneak a couple of washers under one side. We'll put a couple washers under the other side just to make it even. And that should get this rail. That's actually pretty close. So it's a little bit, actually needs a little bit up there or a little bit down here. So I'm going to take the one out of here. So I put 2 in for giggles. Oh, of course. So we have a little balance issue here at this point. My table's not perfectly flat. If I push down on it, that's perfect right there, which means I have to shim that corner. You can see it's coming up when this is down. Okay, some more 1/8 material. Shim that corner. I could actually add just a little bit more to that corner, so one more washer. These 1/4 inch fender washers are great for this. Just fantastic. You just buy them in a big bag, and I use them for all kinds of things here in the shop. Okay, she's perfect. Can't get any better than 0.00. Okay, back to the front. Okay, in this case we are still telling me we're a bit high actually on the side I just added to, or a bit low on this side. So I think we're going to add an extra washer to each end, one on each side. Should be perfect. You can see how exactly plan this in advance, right? I have some of these things done ahead of time. Alright, how do we do? It's almost perfect level this way. Almost. It's right, it's sitting, like if I push on it, it goes straight to 0. If I don't push on it, like literally that's doing it. Resting my hand on it is changing the level. Okay, so I'm going to call that good enough. We're going to check it one more time this way. We're dead, perfectly level that way. We're going to check it at the back end, and it's the same deal as the front end. So if I push it, I mean if I just put a little clamp force on it, it would be perfect. But I don't think we're going to worry about that. We don't want to go too crazy with some of this. Now, we're going to start now the process of putting the frame onto this particular table. Now the table is squared up. Real time. tilt. So we're now going to start assembling the frame onto the table. Don't really have to lock the table down. We could if we wanted to, but sometimes the clamps actually get in the way. On this one, I might just clamp it. I don't actually need the whole length here. Probably won't bother with it. It won't be up on the table for very long. Okay, so we're actually going to need to reference something at the back edge. Okay, so the back end of this frame is these parts right here. You saw me putting these in before when I just finished the table. I got to pull them out of here. But these are some parts that I had fabricated, or I fabricated. I had the channel pieces bent because they need to be narrower here, so they're a little over 2 inches here, and they're 3 inches here at the front end. And then the outriggers, right? We talked about the outriggers in one of the previous videos. It's where people jack the car all the time. They always get dented, so these ones are made out of 10 gauge, so you're not going to dent those unless you got yourself a sledgehammer. But we're going to use this plane here as the reference plane. These are my weld tabs up at the top. They're going to go onto the cross member on the car. The cross member on the car has been checked. It's perfectly square to the car, and the rear end was put in perfectly square to that cross member. So on the other side of that cross member, if we start here and we start building forward from there, we should be able to have a front end that's in square. That's going to be the big challenge, trust me. That's never as easy as it sounds. So I put these two arms on the jig simply to hold these up, because this is a positioning jig for when everything's in the car, but it's nowhere near as rigid or as accurate as we're going to need to actually fabricate a frame with it, for heaven's sake. It's good enough to throw it up underneath the car, but not good enough to actually be building things with. So we're going to go